Hello and thanks for joining us. This is the World News at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon of FM. First, our top stories. 9 political parties collect access codes for candidates' INEC particulars ahead 2027. Nigerian embassy besieged as South Africa as xenophobic protests rise. Parents list 36 missing children as youths protest Borno abduction. Lagos government calls for calm following persistent rainfalls and flash floods. Outside Nigeria, Trump made more than $1 billion from crypto in first year back in office. And in sports, England face DR Congo test as USA prepare for World Cup moment. Those are our top stories. Details coming up now. First on the news, the Independent National Electoral Commissioner INEC says 9 registered political parties have collected access codes to upload their candidates' particulars for the presidential and National Assembly elections ahead of the 2027 general elections. The INEC National Commissioner in charge of Voter Education and Publicity, Mohammed Haruna, made this known on Tuesday in Abuja. According to Haruna, the 9 political parties are Accord, Action Alliance AA, African Democratic Congress ADC, All Progressives Congress APC, Labour Party LP, National Democratic Congress NDC, National Democratic Party NDP, People's Redemption Party PRP, and Social Democratic Party SDP. He explained that it was the responsibility of the political parties participating in an election to approach the Commission to collect the code rather than INEC taking it to individual party secretariats. Haruna added that anyone seeking to collect the code on behalf of a political party must present an authorization letter from the leadership of the party. He noted that INEC has issued guidelines for candidates' nomination. The National Commissioner advised political parties to adhere strictly to the rules, adding that party officials had already been trained by the Commission. Haruna also cautioned political parties against waiting until the last minute before completing and submitting their nomination forms online. He also said INEC has been generous by extending the deadline for the close of work to midnight of the deadline's date, adding that if any political parties decides to wait until the deadline, INEC cannot be blamed for that. INEC had fixed June 27 to July 11 for political parties to submit nomination forms for the presidential and National Assembly candidates through its designated candidates nomination portal. According to the INEC timetable and schedules of activities for the 2027 general election, the submission of nomination forms for the governorship and state assembly nomination is scheduled for July 18 to August 8. The federal government has assured Nigerians still residing in South Africa of their safety, even as fresh concerns over xenophobic tensions and renewed anti-immigration protests continue to trigger calls for stronger diplomatic action. The government also said it will seek from its South African counterparts compensation for Nigerians forced to abandon businesses and other valuable properties. This comes as Nigerians reportedly stormed the country's embassy in Pretoria as xenophobic tensions escalated, while another batch of 269 Nigerians evacuated from South Africa arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos on Tuesday aboard an Air Peace flight from Johannesburg at 10:48 a.m., marking the second government-coordinated evacuation exercise in recent weeks. Nigerian businessman popularly known as Big Joe was reportedly shot and killed by unidentified gunmen on Sunday outside his shop in Witbank in Mpumalanga province, though local police have not announced cause of his death. Thousands of locals marched in major cities across South Africa on Tuesday, calling for the removal of undocumented migrants from the country. Police officers, supported by private security personnel, were deployed amid concerns that the demonstrations could turn violent. Anti-migrant groups had set Tuesday as a deadline for undocumented foreigners to leave. In the wake of the protest, many foreign nationals have reportedly fled their communities due to fear of violence and intimidation. South African police said about 25,000 migrants have been repatriated so far, most of them from other African countries. South African police said the protests were largely peaceful, although isolated incidents of looting, vandalism, and assault were recorded. The military was deployed to Hillbrow, a suburb with a large migration population, following reports that a teenager had been shot and a vehicle set ablaze. Local media reported that protesters in Yeoville threw bricks at some homes occupied by migrants, while demonstrators in Germiston allegedly evicted suspected undocumented foreign nationals from their homes and handed them over to police for immigration checks. Police said 5 persons were arrested for allegedly looting a foreign-owned shop in Soweto. In KwaZulu-Natal province, about 10 people were arrested over looting. And now to insecurity matters, where there was tension in Lassa community, Askira-Oba local government area of Borno State on Tuesday, as parents listed at least 36 children missing following a deadly school attack, while angry youths confronted government delegations sent to sympathize with victims' families. The attack, which occurred on Monday at Government Day Secondary School, Lassa, was carried out by suspected ISWAP terrorists during the National Examinations Council NECO examination. The assailants reportedly killed 2 teachers and abducted an unspecified number of students. Following the incident, the government and the state government dispatched a delegation led by the Commissioner for Education, Science and Technology, Abba Wakilbe, to the community to assess the situation and commiserate with affected families. However, the visit turned chaotic when the youths and relatives of the abducted students rejected the delegation's address. The angry crowd chanted, "We don't want," insisting that government officials should prioritize rescuing the children. Efforts by the commissioner and his team to calm the situation and deliver a formal address failed, forcing them to retreat under pressure as the crowd became increasingly agitated. The delegation was later escorted out of the community by protesting youths wielding placards. Some of the youths were chanting, "Don't play politics with our children," as anger over the abduction deepened. Meanwhile, parents have begun compiling names of missing students at the request of authorities. Several families confirmed that at least 36 children have been listed as unaccounted for. Meanwhile, a senior pastor of the Universal Reformed Christian Church, popularly known as NKST, Reverend Dr. Samuel Gbinde, and 2 members of his congregation have been abducted by armed men in the Andiar community in Guma local government area of Benue State. It was gathered that the cleric and the 2 victims were reportedly whisked from the pastor's residence in the early hours of Tuesday and taken to an unknown destination by yet to be identified gunmen who stormed the home in a commando fashion. According to information, the armed men, whose identities cannot be ascertained at the time of broadcast, came very late at night and broke into the home of the pastor. They were shooting sporadically to scare people away before taking him and 2 other members of the church whom they saw with him away. Confirming the development in a statement, the General Secretary of NKST, Reverend Dr. T.A. Targba, described the incident as unfortunate while calling on Christians and the public to pray for the safe return of the victims. According to the church, the 3 victims were taken from the pastor's residence at the Andiar parish, throwing the congregation and the entire NKST family into mourning. The church appealed to all its clergy, congregations, departments, institutions, members, and friends to unite in fervent prayers for the safe and unconditional release of the abducted cleric and the 2 church members. The church also called on security agencies as well as the Benue States and federal government to move swiftly to rescue the victims and ensure that those behind the abductions are arrested and prosecuted. The Lagos State government has called for calm and understanding from residents following the flash flooding experienced in many parts of the state of the last 2 weeks, with the Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu approving the immediate dredging and maintenance of 28 additional primary channels across the state. Speaking against the backdrop of the downpours which caused flash floods in many communities, the Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, said the rainfalls were an extreme weather event that produced an unusual high volume of water within a short period, overwhelming drainage channels in some locations and resulting in temporary flooding across parts of Victoria Island, Lekki, Ikeja, Bagada, Mushi, Mafuluku, and several other areas. In a statement, the Director of Public Affairs in the Ministry, Kunle Adesina, quoted Wahab as saying that the incident was not peculiar to Lagos, as similar heavy rainfalls also affected other African countries in the same day, even in North America, resulting in flooding across some cities. He said that while Lagos and these cities have coastal and hydraulic characteristics, Lagos presents a much more complex hydrological system due to its extensive network of lagoons, tidal water bodies, rivers, and creeks, as well as significantly higher rainfall intensity. The commissioner explained that the interaction between the Atlantic Ocean, Lagos Lagoon, and numerous rivers and creeks, particularly during periods of high tide, naturally slows the discharge of storm waters into the sea, resulting in temporary inundation in some low-lying areas whenever exceptionally heavy rainfall occurs. Wahab assures the Lagosians and residents of Lagos State government that the government remains fully on top of the situation through continuous monitoring of drainage infrastructure, flood-prone locations, and other critical water channels, adding that emergency response agencies have remained on the ground to ensure that flood waters recede as quickly as weather conditions permit, while providing support where necessary. The commissioner stressed that while the state government continues to invest significantly in drainage construction, channelization, desilting, and other flood control infrastructure, residents also have an important role to play in reducing the impact of flooding. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll go straight to our analysis segment where we have Daily Fanimo. He is a current affairs analyst. Mr. Fanimo, thank you very much for joining us on the news.
Thank you very much.
Let's go to the first story on our news item, which is on politics. As we know, this is political seasons, and activities are on top gear from political parties, the political umpire INEC, and different candidates ahead 2027. Now, despite all the different legal challenges that some of these political parties are facing, including PDP, Labour Party, ADC, and recently NDC, INEC has officially opened the given access code to 9 political parties in order to upload their candidate particulars, both at the states and the national level, for ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, this will probably be good news for NDC, considering what the party is going through, and some of these parties actually. But let's hear your view about that.
You see, I've always thought, and it's becoming clear, that NDC will be on the ballot. From all indications, despite all these legal challenges, and ADC is also likely to be on the ballot, because it's also not good for the current administration not to allow other political parties. Yes, there are flaws in some of these political parties. Strong candidates went to some of these parties without really checking all the challenges they are likely to meet along the way. So the landmines started exploding when it was almost pretty late for them to realize some of these issues. Some had litigations before they jumped into that fray, and now the litigation is almost catching up on them. And there is these factions, springing up and ending up in
and causing chaos in the party.
Yes. So they now realize that they have to contend with some of these things. But I think that the current administration and the current political party in power, APC, would do something to ensure that much of this does not impact on these political parties to the extent that they will be off the ballot.
Are you sure about that? Because several allegations are pointing to the fact that the ruling party is behind the chaos in these political parties, sowing agents of destructions in these parties. Maybe the idea is to stall or disrupt their preparation, which will give APC an upper hand.
Well, let me tell you, the head of the political party, APC, that I know, will not, given his antecedents, will not want to run a one-man show. Because it would be too obvious for the international community.
I mean, isn't it obvious when these huge defections? I mean, they have 31 or 33 governors under the APC. That is looking quite obvious, though.
Let me tell you, I've always said it, and I'm going to reiterate it here, that most of these political actors acted not because they love the president or APC. They were just doing their calculations and falling back to antecedents to see how best they can maximize their opportunity of holding on to their offices. Now, as at the time these people were jumping ships, Labour Party had problems. And
wasn't that the idea, though?
That's conspiracy theory. That up till now, nobody has been able to lay fingers on what and who is behind some of these things.
Isn't it obvious with the PDP and the Wike
Let me tell you, you see, that of Wike and PDP, it's a self-inflicted problem. They grew a monster that they could not tame.
And then the APC took advantage of it.
Before 2023 election, PDP was already in disarray with the exit of P2B to Labour Party.
Yes.
And the insistence of Atiku
to become the presidential candidate.
In spite of the gentleman agreement, which is a convention, not a law, that there should be rotational presidency between the South and the North. So that alone had precipitated crisis in PDP even before the emergence of the current president as candidate of APC.
But if stories are to be believed, that did not stop APC from taking advantage of it.
You see, let me tell you, I am not a politician, but if I happen to be a politician, it's just like a cow that has hunchback. It's a plus for the butcher. Yes.
More meat
for the butcher. So if you precipitate crisis within your ranks, and I see it as an opening for me to take advantage of that, I will, as a politician, will do that. And so, but the point you ask yourself is, if my wife opens the main gate to my house, open the front door, open my bedroom for another man to come into the bedroom with her, why should I blame the man? I'll blame the woman, because if she had not opened the gates, the man will not come in. So if they had already, if they had taken care of Wike, even before the appointment of Wike, before the election, we won't have a monster like Wike troubling APC today. But because they relies almost 90% on him to fund the party, so they couldn't do anything until he grew to be a monster that is untamable. And so will it remain untamable until after that 2027 election. What will happen after that will now be at our own conjecture, which we cannot place finger on. And so, look at the issue of ADC. ADC had issues, and these issues were accentuated by the mode of the likes of Atiku hijacking that party without factoring the original members of that party that are already disgruntled. And so, if you are disgruntled, because even if you don't have the power, you still want to say that, look, these people are cheating me because they have muscles over me. And that was what happened in ADC. The hand, as tiny as it is, the soldier hand, just one can remove a man's trouser, no matter how big you are. And that was what has happened. So if you create criminality and somebody commits that crime, who created it? That's why in law, a conspirator, an aider, an abettor is as guilty as the man that commits the crime. So they created problems for themselves. So if APC is now gloating over the problem they created for themselves, you will not want to blame APC. Why didn't they take care of those teething problems before they emerge as either candidates or members of the ESCO of that party, the National Working Committee of that party? So for me, I would still want, despite all these shortcomings, despite all these landmines, I want a situation that we have a multi-party candidates coming to contest, because the more, the merrier. Because if you go it alone, you won't even understand the enormity of the task before going in. But if you are bloodied in the course of struggling, like the president was bloodied in 2023 before the elections, that he almost did not emerge, he will now know that, look, you have to listen to the cries of the people and then do the needful. But if you just go there, just walking straight, like the way some of our countries in Africa got independence without much struggle, then for you to agitate, for you to ask for your rights and all that, becomes a problem.
In other words, it looks like you don't believe the several political analysts and that are saying that the president and APC, they've been trying very hard to create a one-party state in Nigeria.
I'm sure that one-party state is not going to happen. But I'm dead sure on that.
I mean, whether it will happen or not is a different thing. But the fact that the consensus.
I know where you are taking me.
The consensus.
I know where you are
thinking.
Taking me. I am telling you that I don't believe it.
Okay.
It's conspiracy theory. Let somebody challenge me and say he saw ABC doing this and this and this, maybe in terms of funding, maybe in terms of supporting opposition within the political party that is in disarray, to the extent of muzzling other parts, other group, other faction in that political party, and there are evidence to show, then I'll take it. But not just because you just look at it and say, okay, it is likely, and then the first person is saying likely, the next person will say, I'm almost sure, and the third person is now saying, yes, I'm sure, and the fourth person takes it to town. At the end of the day, you don't have a substance.
But you can't be telling me that 5, 6, 7, 10 people are all having conspiracy theory. There's no smoke without fire.
Let me give you an example. shortly after the Ori abduction in Ogbomoso, somebody went to 2 different schools, raised the alarm, ran away from that spot, and said, they have kidnapped so people, they have kidnapped so people. It was on social media. Parents were running to those schools to retrieve their words. Everybody was in panic. It was later discovered that there was nothing of such. But some people took it to town. Some people posted it in the media, in the social media.
But this is not just social media reports.
I'm just giving you an example. There is no conventional media that has reported. I stand to be corrected, and I want to be challenged. For those who are listening to me now, show me a newspaper, a television, or radio cutting that showed that there is evidence that a PDP man is working against NDC or APC or ADC, or APC is working against, and with facts. That's what I want. It's not just because people run with it, then I will now sit back and look. I'm a media person, and for all my years, 39 of it I spent on media, back to back, both electronics, both print, and even social media. So there's nothing you want to tell me that I don't know about the media. We are supposed to set agenda, but we are purveyors of opinions of people that have special interest in certain issues, and we run with it. There was a time I had argument with some people here that they said, because Dangote is now free to do this, to do that, petrol will be 350, 3,500 and all that. I said, what are the indices? Show me. But after 1 year, that particular story was sponsored in a national newspaper. And I said, no, it's not going to happen. 6 months after, they came back, I reminded them. I said, didn't I tell you that this thing is not going to happen? That when I was news editor or at management level, that reporter that day, that reporter that wrote that story, the sub-editor that worked on it, or the line editor that worked on it, and the editor that published it when I was MD, I would sack the 3 of them. Because there was no substance in the story. So it's not everything that you see in the media. I'm talking as somebody who has been a manager for more than 18 years of my career. There are certain things that when you look at it, if you have gone through sub-desk, if you have gone through the newsroom before you rise to become maybe general manager, executive director, or MD, then you will know that this story is not true.
So do you think in this case now, this story was sponsored, the allegation that APC has been causing confusion and chaos in other political parties? You think this was sponsored?
You cannot rule it out. I'm sure some people, if you give them the opportunity to phone in now, they will abuse my grandparents and everyone. I don't care. But that is the point. That is the position. Let them show me proof. That's why when you that's why he's called the master strategist. The proof won't exactly be easy to come by. Then you cannot convict a criminal without proof. Can you do that? I covered the judiciary, and I witnessed a judgment that the judge said, between you and me, I know you committed this murder, but there is no evidence to punish you. Okay. You are now discharged and acquitted, but God is still waiting. So it's cold hard. Emotion should not be brought into issues like this. That is a perfect crime. Yes, 1 million guess is not enough to display one added evidence.
Now, anyway, INEC, they've been having hard time though because of the different factions in this party. Like we know that, like in PDP, for example, they have like 2 different factions.
You won't you won't blame INEC in all of this. You blame the judiciary. Why would 2 courts of coordinate jurisdiction give conflicting judgments? The INEC is left confused. Now, the judiciary has made it so bad that INEC that's supposed to be the end is now means to the end. It is judiciary that now make pronouncement of who win elections or who loses elections. Should that be? Now, all these factions you are talking about, today, a court will give the judgment and say this faction is recognized. Tomorrow, another court, or court, not appeal court, will give another judgment in Kano or in Zamfara and say the other faction is. Now, how do you marry this? That's why I said judiciary in this country requires new technologies that will give you real time. If Solomon Ofem versus Dele Fanimo is being heard in Lagos High Court, if somebody brings that particular case to Kano High Court, the judge, as on taking that paper, should be able to Google and find out if there is a similar case going on apart from the one brought to his court and throw it out. But it's no longer, it's not yet there. And that's why we have to apply digital technology.
Now, why that is valiant excuse, though, because we've talked about it. I've talked to legal practitioners where they've talked about some of the problems these judges are having. They don't have assistants and stuff like that. But still, is that excuse enough? Because some of these judgments were pretty public, printed in newspapers, read on the news. I mean, we know these judgments were made public. But you see, these politicians, when they don't get a desired judgment, they'll go to another state, and the judge of that state will give a contradictory judgment, despite the previous judgment being made public.
Now,
I mean, you can't
take away corruption from this. But before you fight corruption, you should know the end game and move faster ahead of corruption to block it, to mount a roadblock. And that roadblock is that digital device that gives you, because this person you are accusing of giving different judgments with same coordinate jurisdiction and all that, how many of them with the responsibilities on their neck even take time to read newspapers? How many of them watch TV? As I'm speaking to you, I'm a media person. I'm only compelled to watch certain news channels to enrich myself. I know people that are in offices that have not watched some of these stations in the last 3, 5, 10 years. Some people believe that television is meant for socialization and entertainment. So how are you going to tell that person to begin to watch stations that are news stations? So, but because he has a system in front of him in the court, he has another system in front of him in his chamber, in the High Court, or Appeal Court, or Supreme Court. If that technology is deployed, even right in his bedroom with his tab, somebody has just filed a writ of summons. Somebody has just filed this and filed that. Let me quickly check. It's very easy. You could just check and then discover that Solomon Ofema and Dele Fanimo are already in Lagos High Court, Igbosheri,
for so
case. And you look at the affidavit sworn to, and the counter affidavit, but this is the same case. You can easily pick your phone and call the CJ of the other state and say, this case is already in your court.
That's not even really the work of the judge. The judges should have aides.
The registrar of the court. That's what I'm saying. So he knows, and then the first appearance in court, he will just ask the litigants and their lawyers, are you aware that there's a subsisting case in so court in Igbosheri? Why are you? In fact, it can penalize them
for wasting the court's time.
Exactly. But where you have most of these judges, except for in recent past that they now socialize, and they are almost they were living like recluse in the past. As a matter of fact, in those days when we were growing up, the judge is separated from the town. That's why they created GRA for them. And so you must have a reason to go near that GRA, not even to a particular person's house, to go to a particular GRA, because at the entrance of that street, you will be scrutinized. And the judge is not somebody you can meet on the road or in a party at that time.
Now you see judges entering Okada to court, to deliver court judgment.
No, so that would be magistrates anyway. And it was happening early in
I mean, that still doesn't make it better.
No, in Lagos State, magistrates now ride good cars, brand new cars. Judges now have houses in eyebrow areas and good cars and all that incentives.
What about...
So any judge in Lagos State, for instance, that misbehaves, he would have to answer charges.
What about the NDC situation where the judge in local Kogi State gave a contrary judgment to a judgment he himself gave 5 years ago?
Now you have to understand some of these things. There is injunction, there is stay of execution, and there is judgment of the substantive case. As at that time, that judge was approached to compel INEC to register this political party pending the determination of the substantive case. Do you understand? And because the judge had made that pronouncement, it is incumbent on INEC to register that political party pending when judgment will be entered in the substantive suit. And that substantive suit is what came up recently. So he didn't contradict himself. You should understand. Actually. He didn't. He didn't contradict himself.
So you think that NDC judgment was sound?
Yes. I read the judgment.
Huh.
Yes. Look, you don't understand what this thing is all about. Already, you are asking me. Listen,
even INEC.
You are accusing me of stealing this phone. And you brought my case to court. But you claimed, and the court have reason to believe that you are the owner of this phone. Now, the judge can tell you, enter indemnity form, release this phone, because that is the tool of this person. Release it for him to be presented in court when needed. But we are starting the case of stealing next year. The fact that you have possession of this phone does not mean that you are still the owner of the phone. And it's not enough conviction for that man that you are accused of stealing your phone until when evidence are in court and the judge examines this evidence and come up to say, yes, you are guilty. That's why evidence are in bond in court, pending the determination of the case. And when that evidence can go bad, like an animal, like farm produce and all that, they will sell and keep the proceeds in court until the final determination of the case. So the order of the court was what INEC obeyed. It is not the judgment that was brought initially to the court. So that's why you have to understand some of this procedure.
Now, even INEC was surprised about that pronouncement.
Yes.
You know, the registering NDC.
Yes.
And from the look of it, they are not even complying with it because they've actually given the access code to NDC.
That's what look, let me tell you.
And then there's also the question about the litigant, a group that just emerged from nowhere. They are not a registered political party. They are not a registered political group.
You see, let me tell you, no matter how bad a judgment is, it is valid until when vacated. Are you aware of that? You cannot on your own disobey a judgment just because you think it is not right. You will be running foul of contempt of court, which can even put you in jail. The plausible thing to do is to appeal that judgment if you feel aggrieved, and then let that judgment be vacated. As it stands today, you see, I'm saying this in spite of the fact that there are emotional inputs like who is contesting in this party.
No, but this is not
so,
even a matter of emotion. Some of the facts itself doesn't even make sense. As a matter of fact,
what I'm saying is, no matter how senseless a judgment is, what the law says is you must apply to vacate that judgment.
I wish we can talk more of this because but we have to go to the next topic for discussion. But I have so many questions to ask, but unfortunately we have to go. Nigerian embassy, well, they were besieged by Nigerians still residing in South Africa after the deadlines by these xenophobic South Africans, shouting that undocumented, well, originally on paper that was supposed to be undocumented foreigners leave their country. Obviously a lot of African leaders have started evacuating their nationals from the country, and obviously the protests have continued, which if you see videos online, you see a lot of commercial places both owned by foreigners and Nigerians were locked and deserted, in anticipation.
They were even breaking into those shops.
Exactly, in anticipation to these foreigners to leave South Africa. But what's your take on the situation? Obviously, the federal government have said that they will. That's the latest.
Ask for compensation.
Compensation, yeah, from the Nigerians that leave their property, that left their property in South Africa. While
now, let me tell you, see, this thing didn't start today, and it's not going to end anytime soon.
But this one particularly is looking,
unfortunately,
worse than previous times.
Unfortunately, when I try to examine and analyze the videos available, one thing that came to my mind is that there is tacit government support in that uprising.
Yeah, there is.
Forget about the fact that they are just engaging diplomats and all that to tell you that the South African government had released 600 million rand, and you saw the policemen. They were actually attacking foreigners and protecting those protesters. And it's bad for the image of South Africa. I can tell you that if this thing pulls through till maybe at the end of this month, there will be backlash.
But do they care though? I don't think they care about their image at this point.
The common man on the street, don't forget where these people are coming from. They fought relentlessly for decades to get to where they got themselves in 1994. And so, in the process of all that, look, I've been to South Africa on a number of occasions. I've been to Pretoria, Cape Town, Joburg, and elsewhere in South Africa. The common denominator is the whole economy of South Africa, 70 to 80, I'm just being modest here, resides with a few whites.
The problem is...
And the little education they gave them all these years were clerical educations, education that can just place them at the level of messenger, clerk, and all that. That's why you see a medical doctor, female, marrying a roadside organizer in South Africa, because they limited their education, they limited their exposure, and that's why they hardly fight foreign nationals that are not playing in their league. Have you heard them going to universities? Have you heard them going to hospitals?
The question now is, why aren't they targeting their anger to the government and the white South Africans? Why
don't forget
the other African countries?
There is this Stockholm syndrome. You are in league with your traducer and you are fighting your common people, leaving the enemy to fight those who are also suffering the same fate.
People it's easy for you to bully.
Exactly. Now, you see, let me tell you, where I would directly answer your question is the fact that Nigeria has a very long history of tardiness.
Yeah.
An American citizen would not be left in South Africa till yesterday. That was the deadline. Not a single American. And that's where you get patriotism. The average American want to die for America. But here in Nigeria, how much does it take to evacuate our citizens? If we and don't forget that what we are doing to those people is also going to reflect on those that are in Nigeria today. Because if you think the brother or sibling or family member of that big Jew will be happy with Nigeria forever, no. Because we had the opportunity of rescuing that man, bringing him back before that thing befell him. Yeah. The wife will not forgive Nigeria. The children will not forgive Nigeria. What does it take? APC was ready to evacuate as many people as possible and running their aircraft almost like 2-3 times a week since the xenophobia began. But what at some point the foreign ministry was saying any Nigerian that will be evacuated would have to pay his way back to Nigeria. Somebody who has lost his business, somebody who has lost his property, you want that person to go and commit armed robbery to get money to bring himself back to Nigeria? No. I mean, it can't engender. You see, there's a Yoruba proverb that says, if you are going to bury your own senior brother naked, remember to bring your own junior brother so that they can take a cue from you when you die tomorrow and then bury you naked. They have exposed Nigerians in South Africa to danger, and tomorrow you come and tell them we want patriotism. So we want loyalty to the country. Where are you going to get that loyalty? Where are you going to get that patriotism?
Well, another question now is, why is it taking so long for other African countries to, for lack of better word, let me use the word revenge on, South Africans for this? Because, while Nigerians and Ghanaians have been the more affected country, so many other African countries, Zimbabwe.
Okay, let me start.
Zimbabwe.
Let me start by telling you
because I know in the Senate there was actually a huge argument between Adams Oshomole and majority of the senators on how to handle the South African business, for example, in Nigeria.
Now let me ask you a question. How many South Africans are in Nigeria?
They have some of the big businesses in Nigeria are owned by South Africans.
Just wait. How many South Africans are in Nigeria? There was a time a pastor went to South Africa, and when he was preaching, he told South Africans, please bring your passport tomorrow when you are coming for this second day of crusade, because I want to bless you so that you can have visa. Nobody turned up. Because what is affecting us in Nigeria does not affect them there. How many South Africans do you get to see here? Except the whites that come here as expatriates. And you can't even differentiate them from somebody who is from Europe. So, how much of damage can you do? What about
the businesses?
Now, their businesses. How many South Africans are working in those businesses in Nigeria?
They're mostly
your brother, your sister, my wife, my kid works with some of these business interests. If you shut them down, who is going to feel the brunt? For instance, I want to tell you here today, and I have every confidence to say it. Some of these South African companies in Nigeria, I don't want to mention names, are not as popular in South Africa as in Nigeria.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So, how much of damage would you do?
So how can this be done to, I mean, for the South African government to feel the pulse that they've actually done something wrong and they've betrayed their fellow Africans? No way to do that?
You see, it's difficult. AU is just advisory. There is no standing army. There is nothing. You can only make pronouncement that will not be attended to. I think what should be uppermost in our mind is to begin to talk to these people at diplomatic level.
But we've tried diplomacy several times. That does not work. As you said, this is not the first time. This situation have come up.
How much of diplomacy have we wrought in this? Where you have a critical issue at hand and a civil servant who is just elevated to the position of acting high commissioner is the one engaging a South African government.
Well, let's end it here. We have to go. Mr. Fanimo, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
It's always my pleasure too.
Yeah. And now to stories outside Nigeria. The US President Donald Trump made more than $1 billion, that's £750 million last year, from business dealings in cryptocurrency, according to his mandatory financial report for 2025. In a 927-page disclosure, he reported $635 million in royalties from a Trump meme coin that has plunged in value since he launched it days before taking office. He also reported that $500 million in income from World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency firm foundation by his own sons and children of his special envoy, Steve Witkoff. He earned millions more from real estate and Trump-themed items, but the White House denied he was profiting from the presidency. The earnings from his latest financial disclosure far outpaced the previous ones for 2024, when Trump disclosed over $600 million of income. But the White House, which has repeatedly emphasized that Trump has placed his businesses in a trust managed by his sons, again denied any conflict of interest. White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly said that the presidency had proudly made the U.S. The crypto capital of the world. The president himself has also highlighted that he is not subject to federal conflict of interest laws. Trump once criticized cryptocurrency, famously calling Bitcoin a scam in 2021 and a disaster waiting to happen. But during his presidential campaign 3 years later, Trump said he wanted to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the planet. One of his first actions when he returned to the White House last year was an executive order to support the responsible growth of the cryptocurrency. Richard Painter, the crypto industry, Richard Painter, the former chief White House ethics lawyer under George W. Bush, said it was extraordinary that Trump has made $1 billion from crypto. He said, of course, it's a conflict of interest. And out to sports news, England take on resilient Democratic Republic of Congo side at the World Cup today, Wednesday, looking for a place in the last 16, while co-host the USA prepare for the biggest match in their football history. Two European powerhouses have already been ejected from the tournament after Germany and the Netherlands were beaten on penalties in the last 32 by Paraguay and Mexico respectively, and England do not want to be next. The Three Lions are aiming to end a 60-year wait to collect a major trophy, but their coach Thomas Tuchel warned his players that they are facing a team in Atlanta with nothing to lose. The German cautioned that the game so far in the round of 32 speak a very clear language. It's narrow margin. England will rely on their world-class duo of Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane, although influential defender Reece James misses the game through injury. DR Congo have scored the footballing scoured rather the footballing world for players with links to the West, the vast African nation. Of the 26-man squad, 20 were born outside of Congo, the majority in France, including forward Yohan Wissa, who is well known to his English opponents from the Premier League. Defender Aaron Wan-Bissaka was born in London and played for England to the under-21 level, and Axel Tunsebe also represented England youth teams. DR Congo coach Sebastian Desabra stressed that the honors will be on England, not a side who many pundits did not expect to emerge from their group. In a crowded field of sports, soccer has made great strides in America in recent years, but USA players know that Wednesday's clash against Bosnia-Herzegovina will be the biggest moment so far in their progression. Up to 30 million Americans are expected to tune in for the primetime game in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Christian Pulisic and his teammates try to achieve the nation's first knockout win in almost a quarter century. The light is dimming for Belgium's golden generation, including Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku. Senegal will provide a severe test of those aging legs in Seattle. On Tuesday, Kylian Mbappe and France laid on a sumptuous display of attacking as the East passed Sweden 3-0, with the Real Madrid forward collecting 2 goals to take his tally in the tournament to 6. And that's the world news at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. I am Solomon of FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.